I am Chandrasekhar Vecha, Joint Secretary, Pragna Bharati, Telangana. I like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you on behalf of Durga Foundation and Pragna Bharati. As you are all aware, this program is being conducted jointly by both these organizations. Before we actually start our program, I like to call upon our guests for today to please come on to the dais. This is not in any particular order. May I request our Chairman Pragna Bharati, Sri Dr. Tripuraneni Hanuman Chaudhary Garu, to please come on to the dais, sir. Sridhar Potaraj Garu, author of the book which we are reviewing today. He is an advocate and he is actually practicing the Supreme Court of India. Welcome, sir. Sirish Dopeshwarkarji, President, Pragna Bharati, Telangana. Please come on to the dais, sir. And Sri V. Giridharanji, entrepreneur. Please come on to the dais, sir. And also, Srimati Usha Ramani Garu Durga. She is the trustee of this foundation. Please come on to the dais, madam. As it is customary for us to do the Jyoti Prajwalan before we start any of our programs. Now, may I request our guests on the dais to perform the Jyoti Prajwalan. Okay.
Subham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah. Subham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah. Shatru buddhi vinasaya deepa jyoti namostute. Deepa jyoti namostute. Subham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampada. O deepa brahma rupastham jyotisham prabhuramyaha arogyam dehi putramsha yehi svacham vite sada.
Dhanyavad. Now, may I request Srimati Padmaja Garu for Vande Mataram. Shall we all rise to do the Vande Mataram?
Vande Mataram, Vande Sujalam Sufalam Malayaj Sitalam Sasyamalam Mataram. Vande Mataram Subrajosna Pulagitalamini Pulla Kusumita Drumadala Shobhini Sumadhura Bhashini Sukadam Varadam Mataram. Vande Mataram Koti Koti Kanta Kala Kala Ninada Karale Koti Koti Bhujai Dhruta Khara वन्दे मातरम् संविदुर्व दशप्रहरणधारिणी कमलां कमलदलविहारिणी वाणी विद्यादायिनी नमामि त्वां नमामि कमलाम् अमलाम् अतुलां सुजलां सुफलां मातरं वन्दे मातरं श्यामलां सरलां सुस्मितां भूषितां धरणीं भरणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं। धन्यवाद। भारत माता की जय।
Now, may I request President of our organization, Pragna Bharati, to give a brief introduction about our organization. Shirishji, please.
Namaskar. Welcome. Good evening to all of you. I am Shirish Dopeshwarkar. On behalf of Pragna Bharati, Telangana, I have pleasure in welcoming you all to this function of book release of the book written by Sridharji Potarajuji, who is a Supreme Court lawyer, and introduce also the Pragna Bharati to you. Pragna Bharati, as most of you might be aware, we are a forum of nationalist thinkers, a forum which brings together nationalist thinking authors and academicians and gives them a platform as well as promote their work. We do our activities through different activities like public debates, public meetings. Sorry for that. We do that through public meetings, seminar, conferences, and we also have the virtual meetings. During the COVID time, we had more than 100 meetings on different subjects which touch our life and in the life of the nation, and subjects which are very dear to us. So we bring them out. We integrate with the different nationalist thinkers so that a nationalist thinking is promoted and it gives way to expression of feelings as well as finding solutions in the way that we hope to do. Not necessarily from the Western point of view, but our own national point of view. And this program today is one such program. We are very happy that we have been able to do this for Sri Giridharji, and we will continue to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sureshji. Now, I request Revati ji from Durga Foundation for a brief introduction about their organization.
Respected dignitaries on the dais and friends, it is our pleasure to co-host this August session in association with Pragna Bharati Foundation. Our today's meet the order for Maxims of Mahabharata. It is actually a double pleasure for us because Sridhar Puttraju is also a friend of the family and a friend of the foundation. A few words about our foundation. Inspired by Durga Krishna Mohan Rao and Srimati Durga Janaki Rani, our foundation was first established in 2009 and reinvented in 2020. We're a not-for-profit registered organization that's focused towards achieving and promoting excellence in various fields of literature, culture, media, heritage, education and development. A lot of our activities include awards in culture and literature. We do research documentation and media studies, as well as a lot of conferences, social events, activities, exhibitions and competitions. We also do restoration projects of old buildings in association with other organizations. We published as an organization more than about 50 plus books with more than 7 to 8 authors and have awarded many respected and esteemed artists across the fields of art, literature, etc. Our latest venture, we also have an association with the University of Hyderabad for journalism fellowships. We recognize as an organization that cumulative endeavors of our elders should be cherished and continued in a collective effort, as a collective legacy. And because of that, we choose to come together with other like-minded individuals, concerned citizens and other organizations such as Pragna Bharati to be able to take various events forward. Thus, we are happy and really grateful to be able to partner today for this particular event. Once again, we welcome you all and thank you so much for gracing this evening with our presence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Revati ji. Now, I take this opportunity to introduce the author of this book, Maxims from Mahabharata, Sridhar Puttraju garu. He originally hails from Hyderabad. He spent his childhood and formative years here in Hyderabad, and he actually got his BCom honors degree here in Hyderabad, and after that he got an admission at the CLC, that is Campus Law Center, University of Delhi, and after completing his law degree, he enrolled himself as an advocate and started practicing at Honorable Supreme Court of India. Since then, yes. He has a liking for reading and learning about ancient Indian texts and spending time in research as well. Now, we must appreciate the fact that he applies his learnings into the case material filed before the courts where appropriate. And another fact about him makes us happy and proud that he was a core member of the legal team for Sri Ram Lalla Virajman in the Ram Janmabhoomi case. Definitely, it makes us proud. And I thank Sridharji once again to find time out of his busy schedule to be with us here this evening and to chat about his book. Thank you so much, Sridharji. Now I request Shri Giridharanji to say a few words about this book.
Namaste to everybody. When we think about Mahabharata, we always think that it is something which happened a few thousand years ago. And why do we have to remember that now? It's a good question. I don't know how many of us can answer that question honestly. Oh, but Mahabharata with its 1 lakh shlokas, covering whatever aspect of life that you're talking about, science, geography, finances, administration, dharma, any of the aspects that you pick up, you will find something about that in Mahabharata. The beauty of what Sridharji has done is that he has picked it up and has connected with the relevance of today's world, with what Mahabharata can do to us. A lot of times we hear people saying that everything is in the Vedas. But if you ask somebody specifically, even somebody who is about maybe 50 or above, 60 or above, 70 or above, you will find that they say, no, everything is in Vedas. Ask him what? Nobody knows. But what Sridharji has done, beautifully in fact, is that he has picked up slokas. He's not just said that everything is in Mahabharata like what I said just now, 1 lakh slokas, everything about life in there. But what he has done is that he has picked up specific slokas, specific contexts, specific role plays, and come up with a fantastic combination of all this, actually converted and translated to today's situation, and then he has done a translation of the Sanskrit slokas into English. That in itself is a very, very great effort. It takes a lot of effort to even read through all the things and then come up with these kind of things, pick things which are important, not that the others are not important, but which are relevant. And being in Supreme Court, he and his interaction with many people, including Sri Parasaranji and you name anybody, who has worked with Ayodhya case, I think it had an excellent opportunity to look into Bharatiya. I call it Bharatiya, nothing else. He's done a fantastic job. I would like every one of you to actually go through this book end to end. One, it's been composed beautifully. The language is excellent. It's rare that you will see that the language which is used to express something is so very beautifully done, articulately done, aptly done. One little mention and then I think I'll stop talking about this book because we're going to have a conversation later on. When Hanuma meets Sri Rama for the first time, Hanuma is in a Brahmana Vesha. He comes over there and then asks Sri Rama, saying that, who are you? You look like from Raja Kutumbam, Raja, all that. But who are you? Then Sri Rama does not reply directly to Hanuma, saying that I am so and so or so. He looks at Lakshmana and says that this person, whoever is there, is not what he seems to be. He's a Veda Pandita. Why a Veda Pandita? What is the context in that? What is the explanation? He says he's a Vakyajna. Vakyam in English, directly translated, is sentence. Sentence, according to Oxford Cambridge Dictionary, says it's a group of words that makes meaning. Nothing beyond that. But each Vakyam has 18 characters. Vakyam is what is spoken and has 18 characters, which includes facial expressions, gestures, the way the apt words are being used, the lip movement. It runs on. 18 of them. He says this man knows all 18 of them, and he is a Vakyajna, he is a Veda Pandita. This is what Sri Rama tells Lakshmana. Now that's what we are supposed to be looking at, what our speech would be, the way we speak. And some of those slokas which we will discuss later on actually get to this context there. And so the language that is written is so important as well as spoken, that this book, as soon as I looked at the preface written by some parts written by Palkhiwala-ji and Ramasubramanian-ji, you look at that and what he himself has put together, it's in fantastic language, excellent language, which I'm sure that most lawyers would have by now, but it is very well done. So this is the appreciation that one would have once somebody has a chance to look at the book, read the book. Please read the book. Don't look at the book. Don't run through that. Read the sloka. There are some small things here and there about these slokas themselves, but you will find out as you keep reading that thing. Beyond this, I don't think we need more introduction on the book itself, which will come when we have a discussion on the book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giridharanji. As we move ahead to this evening's program, now this is time for us to hear the opening remarks by Dr. Hanuman Chaudhary garu.
नमस्कार, आप सब बोलिए नमस्कार। जय श्री राम, जय श्री राम, जय श्री राम। उषा जी, गिरिधरन जी, श्रीधर जी, and Dhomeshwar, my colleague and dear friends. I will be speaking both in Telugu and English. I am just 91 years young. I want to be younger as every day passes in the company of the young people like you. A man is as young or old as he thinks, and the ladies are as young as they look. They, both of them convey a lot of meaning. Friends, Nannaya translated Mahabharata along with two others who did later. Nannaya wrote Sri Mahabharata, Adi Parvam, Sabha Parvam, and one more Aranya Parvam, half of it. In that he says, Nana Ruchirartha Sukti Niji Nannaya Bhattu Telungunan Bharata Samhita Rajana Bandhurudaye Jagadhitambugan. Jagat Hita. For the Shreya of the world, Jagadhitambugan, Nana Ruchirartha Sukti Niji Nannaya Bhattu. Nana Ruchirartha, Ruchira, Ruchi, very tasteful, very nice. At the Sukti, Maxims, containing, picking up 273 of them in the year 2011, I requested one Telugu Pandit to pick up the most expressive and inspiring, educative Suktis and publish this book in Telugu based upon Telugu Mahabharatam. Sri Mahabharata Sukti Sudharnavam. Arnavam means ocean. Sudha means honey. Sukti Sudha Arnam. And now we all know that in the recent past, especially nowadays, people are not having their education through the mother tongue. Vyamoha, that is attracted by the prospect of better life, more money, etc., English medium, and the two Telugu states in this respect are culprits. They are culprits. They are introduced to English medium even from LKG onwards. Friends, Bharatiyas may be illiterate in the Western sense, but they are knowledgeable. Where did that knowledge come? That did not come by reading books. It has come by hearing the stories. And from the Mahabharata and the Ramayana and even Bhagavata. But of all these, Mahabharata appealed to everybody because as the learned have characterized it as Panchama Veda, the fifth Veda. Whatever is in this Mahabharata may be in other books, but what is not in this you can't find anywhere else. That shows how encyclopedic Mahabharata is. Every aspect of life has been covered. Every aspect of it. And these kathas as gadhas have been brought out all over India to the knowledge of the people through song, dance, drama and katha, shravana. So everybody, most people in India until very recently are familiar with many of the episodes in the Mahabharata. What is dharma, what is truth, what is untruth, and is dharma constant, does dharma change? Apadharma, kuladharma, and swadharma, etc. What are the nuances? When can people tell lies? వాడిజాక్షులందు వైవాహికములందు ప్రాణ విత్త మాన భంగమందు చకిత గోకిలాగ్రజ రక్షణమందు బొంకవచ్చును అగము పొందదజిప. That is Shukracharya telling Bali not to give the gift of whatever the tiny puny man is asking. వాడిజాక్షులందు వైవాహికములందు. Now this type of song, poetry recited and explained in the context of when it was said, etc. This is what has contributed to the wisdom of the people of Bharat. People of Bharat are wise, not through books, not through literacy, not through discussions, but by hearing. By hearing the people speak, learned people speak, and giving explanation and also to the questions, etc. Especially in the villages during the rainy season, when they did not have any agricultural operations, people would gather in a chavadi and somebody would read, somebody would explain, people would ask questions, and that's how it was. That what is dharma, Hindu dharma, Bharatavarsha, all these things are known to people even if they were not illiterate. In my own case, my maternal grandfather was illiterate, but during the British times, he was a part of the jury. There were trials of the jury. So, an illiterate person, because of his knowledge and wisdom, the British had commissioned him into jury. You know, Kadandi, he used to have trial by jury until the British left. After the British left, the trial by jury is not there. In fact, when Godse was tried, and the appeal judge Khanna has written, if the trial was by jury and not by the court judge alone, he would have been acquitted. Because the jury consists of wise people, not necessarily lawyers, etc., who know the law, but they know the Bharatiya Shastra, Bharatiya Dharma, every aspect of Dharma. So, the Mahabharata, which is equated as the Panchama Veda, the fifth Veda, describes the situation of every life, including insects, up to humans and devas, and these various situations in which we find ourselves. So for each one of them, the question and answer, especially in the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata, when Bhishma was there for 54 days waiting for the Uttarayana Punya Kala to leave the mortal body, Krishna takes the Pandavas, and because they don't know how to rule, and they ask Bhishma to explain everything, what is statecraft, what is dharma, what is called dharma, and what is right and wrong, when people can tell lies and they should not. Such wisdom was imparted in the Mahabharata through Bhishma Parva and so many other Parvas. Nowadays, since many young people are not familiar with the Telugu text or in the Mahabharata in their mother tongue, Sridhar has done a wonderful job of collecting 54, I think, more than 100 maxims. Each one he has explained in what context it was uttered and what were the question and what were the answer. This along with, if you can do the Yaksha Prasnas also, there is another wonderful thing, one day you should write. It is there, of course, Bharati Vidya Bhavan has published that. Yaksha Prasnas, Yaksha asks Yudhishthira so many questions and the answers. These are how they convey wisdom. I congratulate Sri Sridharji for his first respect for our tradition, for our literature, and the industry that he has put in going through the Sanskrit text, especially published by Pune by the great Sanskrit scholar Suktankar, a great scholar. So he has taken all the versions of Bharata in so many languages, in so many centuries, and then by using the linguistic yardstick, he said this is the correct text. That is what he has gone to while picking up these suttis, these maxims. I congratulate him and I commend this excellent book, Maxims from Mahabharata. And he has the blessings of one of our living sages. Anybody can name that? Parasharan. Parasharan, who Ram Janmabhoomi argued, and when he was there, when he was asked to sit, he wouldn't sit. He would not have his chappals or shoes with him, because Rama's name is so sacred that about a 90-year-old person stood and argued before the bench, spellbound. He has also quoted Nani Palkhiwala. He is another great Indian saint, scholar, and an intellectual who in the Bharati Vidya Bhavan was responsible for the publication of so many things, and he has mentioned in his preface his ideas. I once again congratulate him and the two organizations, that is my Pragna Bharati and the other one, for arranging this one. Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much, Hanuman Chaudhary garu. As per the format, now it is time for us to have an interactive session that will be one-on-one between Giridharanji and Sridharji. We'll just take 2 minutes to set the dais for that. That will be one-on-one. May I request Shri Sridharji and Giridharanji to please come on to the dais. we'll have the interactive session now. This will be in the format of an interview. And once we are done with this format, we'll have a question answer session from the audience. You'll be having time to ask questions so that the author can answer your questions. And I have a request for you. When you ask your questions, please pose your questions straight away without any introduction or anything, so that others can also get an opportunity to ask their questions. And also, you are given some feedback forms. Please fill those and return them to the organizers. Thank you so much.
One mic exchange.
ఇంకోటి కూడా కార్డెడ్
Look at each other. It's a conversation between us.
మా బాబాయ్లండి మా బాబాయ్
Namaste to everybody. We'll try and keep this conversation as much as possible in English. The book is written in English. But sometimes we may just slide into Telugu, some Hindi, etc. Please don't mind that. Because it's probably in the course of the conversation that it gives some kind of a spice to the whole thing. You can complain when you want. And that's how Chandrasekhar ji said that we should not have too much of introduction, but come to the question directly. I hope it does not apply to me, but it's supposed to be conversation rather than questioning. There is nothing to question in fact. It's a conversation that should bring out the best out of the book, the author, and the context itself. First of all, what I would like to ask you, Sridharji, is what made you think about this?
It's a very interesting journey. As a lawyer, I have had occasion to deal with a lot of Latin maxims. And from my childhood, I've always been enjoying playing with words. And I used to pick up proverbs, Nanullu, Sametalu, or Muhavare, or they have different names in Indian languages. And they actually are most effective mode of communication. And I felt that to put across a point or score a debating point, the appropriate maxim is the way of communication. And in my professional space, we are using Latin maxims. Now it's considerably reduced. But somehow I felt that there is a vacuum insofar as our own maxims are concerned. Unfortunately, I think India is still to come out of its intellectual slavery. So therefore, we are still enamored by maxims from outside, and then we are somehow subconsciously enslaved. So we think low of our languages and our proverbs. So that's a low self-esteem, which is reflection of our inferiority complex, which is born out of colonial rule. And I think that is where I felt a little concerned that after 70 odd years of political independence and thousands of years of existence as a civilization, that we are not actually owning up to our own heritage and cultural richness, and then depending on very superficial jurisprudential maxims, which we really don't even know the context in which they are made. So that is where I thought that there is a need for Indian maxims, sometimes in 2018, in fact. And I was hoping that somebody else will do the job like a good Indian. And then nobody was doing it, and I in fact looked around. There were different random books, quotable quotes or things like that, but nothing in this format that I could come across. So that is when I decided that probably I have to take up this task for myself, and then this is the first of that series that I'm going to do.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now the other thing is, you talked about the intellectual slavery with the colonial rule, etc. When are you going to get rid of your black coat, the apron?
Well, there are two ways of losing it. I give up my practice and lose it straight away. So the other way is when the rules permit. So as a dharma abiding citizen, I follow the rules.
Well, let's come to dharma. See, we talk about niti, nyaya, dharma. One of my friends who practices here in the High Court, an advocate, he was talking about the statement that is made saying Satyameva Jayate, which is what is used in all the high courts. But he said Supreme Court has Dharmameva Jayate. But then I looked at this to try and read the logo over there.
Dharmas tato jaya.
Exactly.
It's Yato Dharmas tato jaya.
I would like you to talk about that. In fact, differentiate all these three things: Nyaya, Niti, Nyaya, and Dharma.
I would rather defer that classification because I'm not a linguist to venture into that space, but I would like to deal with the second part, which is within my domain.
Yes,
Whereas when we talk about Satyameva Jayate, that is that truth shall prevail. That's the cultural and civilizational value that we have always practiced in this country. If you can look at the status of Satya, from Satya Yuga as we refer to, followed by Treta, Dwapara and Kali Yuga, the oldest story of a person who's given up everything for the sake of truth is Harishchandra. And that is the testimony that even people today give about truth, that Harishchandra la unnadu. So it's satirically used now that this guy to Harishchandra ban raha hai. Jhoot bolne ke kya problem hai? So, but that's a civilizational, I think, genetic programming that all of us have inherited subconsciously. Therefore, it's probably not been eroded.
Which is one of the reasons why the topic that you've taken up, Mahabharata, is in such good context forever.
True.
And at this point of time, definitely, because we've been shedding ourselves of the colonial influences.
True.
Including the language.
True. To complete the second part of the motto of Supreme Court, the Supreme Court's motto is Yato Dharmas Tato Jaya.
Yes.
Unlike Satyameva Jayata. Now it's a very interesting contrast of mottos. Why would Supreme Court not consider truth? And why would it only look at dharma? So Satya and Dharma, I think, are the two guiding principles for us as a civilization. And for us, there is no book, there is no one saint, or there is no one God. We are a country or a civilization which believes in diversity. We are a very liberal society which is culturally, civilizationally diverse. So, where does this codification or where does this unification come from? It comes from invasions and colonization. Otherwise, we were always diverse and we were fighting within that diversity. And the politically strong version always prevailed. That's our heritage. Vaishnavas, Shaivas, and various other denominations. Now, going back to the issue of Yato Dharmas Tato Jaya, the origin of this phrase is in Mahabharata and most popularly attributed to Gandhari. When Duryodhana goes to seek his mother's blessings all through the war, she only blesses him with Yato Dharmas Tato Jaya and doesn't bless him Vijayi Bhava. That's a very profound statement coming from a mother who knows that her son is actually going into a war. And it's a very natural thing that the mother would wish that his son lives. And she knows that in this war, unless he wins, he can't live. But still she chooses Dharma. That's the greatness of Gandhari. And this phrase has been repeated by several other players in the story. And I consciously chose Dhritarashtra's quote here, because this is not really referred to.
Yes.
This is really, the reason being, Dhritarashtra himself was a man who was a dharmagya. He knew dharma. Like most of us know what is the correct thing to do. But we do not have the self-control to actually act upon it. That is the distinction between Gandhari and Dhritarashtra that I see. Now, the Supreme Court is empowered under Article 142 to do complete justice between the parties before it, as contrasted with the adjudication of rights by a high court as the highest court in the constitutional scheme in a state. They are governed by the rules of evidence and procedure apart from the substantive law. But Supreme Court has been given this extraordinary power under Article 140 to do complete justice. Therefore, that power to do justice is referable to its motto of Yato Dharmas Tato Jaya, because the judicial conscience would know where dharma is, though procedural laws can actually indicate otherwise. And it is that exercise of judicial consciential power to uphold dharma that this Article 142 has been carved into the Constitution is how, I benefited hearing from Sri Parasaran, and I'm just probably paraphrasing how he would have done it more better.
Well, you will come to that point anyway. It's not too far away.
Yes.
Now, having said this, do you recall instances of Supreme Court actually coming up with this motto being used in specific cases? One or just an example?
Yeah, straight away. If you look at the Ram Janmabhoomi case, in fact, it's an interesting conversation I would like to digress and then share. Normally, the Supreme Court works from Monday to Friday, but when the judgment in this case was to be pronounced, this judgment was pronounced on a Saturday, which is a non-court working day. And then the list got published late in the evening at around 8 or 8:30. I was having dinner at home, my uncle and family had visited. Suddenly my colleague started calling me, "Sir, आपने देखा?" I said, "क्या देखना है? सुबह judgment आ रहा है." So I was taken aback. And then all of us, we had a small group of people, 3 of us, Yogeshwaran, Bhakti and me, who used to handle this case while the senior counsels were arguing. We were the back end, we were doing things. So we started calling each other and we were too excited. And then we also figured out that Parasaran sir was in Chennai and then he would like to come to Delhi. So the logistics were being worked out, and then around 11:30, 12 this conversation having. He said, "Parasaran sir is in airport. Why don't you talk to him?" So that's never the time you call a 92-year-old man.
Needs to be applauded.
So, that way he was in the airport, I called him. And he said, "Sridhar, I didn't have time to have any proper dinner. Carry breakfast and come to the airport."
Fantastic.
So that's the human side of this great man.
Yes.
Then we went to the airport and we drove back to the court. So en route, I was out of excitement, and then knowing his insight, I actually asked him this question: "What do you think will be the judgment?" And believe me, the answer he gave was so beautiful. He says that in my Ram's court, nobody will go empty-handed. So, and that's where Supreme Court has exercised Article 142 power to actually give an alternative site of about 5 acres so that we do not let anyone go away from court that they've been actually denied anything. So that's the kind of exercise of power that Supreme Court did in this case.
Dharma prevailed, yes. Now, coming to the aspects that have been mentioned in the depiction.
That's designed by Pranati, my niece.
That's a wonderful job. That's been done. Let us take one of them. We talk about Bhishma not upholding what is, I don't know what to call that. Is
His
that
dharma.
Please.
His dharma. This is in the context of Draupadi getting disrobed in the Kuru Sabha.
Yes.
So it's a very popular episode where most of the women take offense to this particular act and then choose to walk away from reading further in Mahabharata. I think that's where the real problem is, that people don't read it fully and then form opinions and then prejudices. So unless you read the whole thing, you would not really appreciate the context. So in this case, this is a society where this event has happened. Unfortunately, something similar has happened yesterday in Hyderabad, yesterday or 2 days back. So that's the social reality that we have to live with. Are we approving it or endorsing it or justifying it? No, sorry, we do not. And it was not done even in Mahabharata times. But what is it that people in position to stop or interfere, do or not do, is the essence of the moral of the story in that episode. Bhishma, being the patriarch, sitting in the assembly, could have intervened and said that I actually would intervene and stop this. He doesn't do that. He feels or he believes that he is duty bound to stand by the throne because of his vow. And when Draupadi questions him as to whether, she questions him on pure legal principle as to whether a person who's lost his freedom could have waged anybody else's freedom. It's a very simple legal question. So he dithers that question and answers, saying that Yudhishthira knows dharma, you should ask him. So basically, when you are in a position to answer and you refuse or you duck, the law of physics, as the karma philosophy works, will not let you off. And then he's on the ampasaya or the arrow, bed of arrows for 40 days and bleeds the entire blood through the 40 days period. And it's a very interesting thing I noticed there in Shanti and Anushasana Parva. He instructs Yudhishthira and then speaks about various dharmas. And then Yudhishthira feel very good. Actually, पूरा पढ़ाने के बाद भी इससे तो फिर समझ में नहीं आया, फिर बोलो. So it's so like us. I mean, like a backbencher, average. He comes out like that. And then Bhishma is like the grandfather, patriarch, already खून जा रहा है, ये क्या बोल रहा है, फिर से कहाँ बोलूँगा पूरा. So he gets, and he says that do one thing, do what I say and follow me as I instruct you. Now look at the contrast of Bhishma's reaction. Could he have not done that in Kurusabha and stopped everyone saying that, boss, I am the authority on dharma, this will stop? He fails to do that. And that's the contrast in the personality. And that probably because when he is on his deathbed, he's reconciled or he's realized what he has failed and he's accepted it, and in that remorse he's suffered all the consequences of that bad karma.
During that time. Now, in the same context, what is higher? What is rather than? And what is higher? Is a loyalty towards the Raja higher or loyalty towards the people higher?
So there's beautiful sloka. I mean, I'm not familiar with Sanskrit, but I figured out using Devanagari reading skills and Telugu pronunciation skills and fixed my translations using two different translations, triangulation. I mean, more or less like artificial intelligence. So I would now here refer to a beautiful verse where it says, the individual needs to be sacrificed for the family. The family has to be sacrificed for his clan. The clan can be sacrificed for the grama or the state, as you call, and this entire state can be sacrificed for the nation. But when it comes to your Atma, your body has to be sacrificed.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the hierarchy of principles of sacrifice which have been set out. So therefore, I mean, there's no confusion.
So, sorry to bring in the current day politics in this one. But I would like to mention names, of course. Rajshekar Reddy was the Chief Minister. Kiran Kumar was the Speaker. A Speaker is supposed to be following dharma, balanced. But there was something going on in the assembly, and then this man said that no, I'll follow the leader, who is Rajshekar. A Speaker has no leader. Speaker does not belong to the party. But it's very unfortunate. It was very unfortunate that this thing happened. I'm sorry I mentioned the names because some of you people may not like it, but I found this to be very ridiculous. That a speaker who is supposed to have a balanced stage there, impartial, says that my leader is saying this, I would like to do anything for my leader. One. Second thing is that he's a political leader. He should be answerable to people, not the party. Not its leader in the party. This is my opinion, of course.
Well, I mean, without going into the names, that taking it as an illustration, I would just try to draw your attention to the Constitution here. The Constitution gives a format of oath for all constitutional offices. So that's a clear case of breach of oath to the Constitution. That's it.
Yes, yes. Which is not adhered.
No, I mean, someone breaches his oath. That's a complete.
And both breach them actually for that too. Which is one of the reasons why every one of us in this country and outside should read Mahabharata. Which is what you brought into this book here. I'd like you to speak about that.
See, what is happening now is that as we are getting more and more enamored by materialism, here I would like to make a contrast between the Western Indic values. The Western values are all based on a premise that man is the master of the world and then he is on the top of the species. So he is to command the other species, and that's the concept philosophically that they build their entire economies and political power also on. That was followed by their economical philosophy, be it capitalism or socialism/communism. I don't see much difference there as far as this context is concerned. They could be academically different. Politically, they were together. They keep interchanging those phrases. Both of them have control over material resources as their end goal. So there is nothing more that society is aspired to. Their political doctrines or the economic doctrines, end goal is control of material resources and then how to manage it. That's where it ends. On the contrary, for us, material things are the least important. For us, we are guided by dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So for us, moksha is the ultimate. That's the end goal. Not acquisition or control of artha or fulfillment of desires. So that's the contrast that probably we have between Indic knowledge systems and the Western free trade or state-controlled communism. So that's the difference. And so we are guided by Satya and Dharma, which would guide all our decision making.
Excellent, excellent. Now, there was, somebody told me, सब ऐसे होने चाहिए कि पैसे हमारे द्वारा बाहर जाए, वो काम करके जाए. ऐसा नहीं हमारे इसमें ऐसे पकड़ के जाए पैसे. What you said was, wealth should not be wealth, but it should be a tool to progress.
True. See, for us, the king was not the source of power or the source of law. King was a custodian who was a trustee on behalf of the people. Therefore, it was not his wealth. So that clearly shows that he could not have dealt with it the way they choose to as a personal thing. So that's the essence of what you probably indicated as well. And then therefore it has to be only a means. I mean the simplest metaphor I can think of is a flowing water.
Yes.
If it is stagnant, it's going to stink and then destroy the people.
Right.
Who are holding on to it.
We found that in the it really stinks.
True.
The bad people were complaining about that.
True.
मास्क लगा के वो कम करना पड़ा. इतनी बुआ ने कहाँ लगाए उसको ले जाकर.
True.
Absolutely right. Now, being the trustee, the king being the trustee of everything under his kingdom or whatever you call it, he is supposed to protect what? The people or the people's wealth.
The king was to uphold dharma.
Perfect.
Because everyone individually is duty bound to perform his dharma. Dharmo rakshati rakshita. Which means everyone performs his responsibility or duty, and then there is order in the society. If everyone follows the traffic rules, traffic jam nahi rehta.
You got this point by one of the sloka that he talks about the Raja. protecting dharma.
Yes.
And the dharma protecting him. You brought that out as one of the slokas
Yes.
that I saw. Had that thing excellently done. Are we still okay with the time? Are we done? 5 more minutes? Okay, thanks. Well, I will just let you go on.
No, man, the reason I feel that we need to revisit Ramayana or Mahabharata, because this is what I have read, I have no competence to comment beyond these two, is that they tell us a human story in different circumstances of life which are no different than what we face now. Deprivation of property, deprivation of position, deprivation of relations, separation from their loved ones, and it leads to different kind of reactions. Most of the human conflicts that we see in the society, both inner and external conflicts, are actually some things which we are in a position to deal with if we have some material to look up to, or a principle which is a guiding kind of a lifeguard or a life jacket kind of a thing. So you hold on to a principle, dharma rakshati rakshita is what protects you, but you need to be aware of the principle. Unfortunately, our academia has removed most of these itihasas from our public space. And therefore, the society is today is sans of any legitimate access to our own civilizational heritage, literature. I mean, don't take it as a religion or a matter of ritual, but take it as a literature, take it as a part of lived civilizational experience of this land, and share it with the people so that when they grow up, they actually know the principles to be applied. And it's very difficult to teach abstract models. When you tell them a story, the morals will automatically sink in. Why are children so attached to a Kung Fu Panda or a Lion King? The beautiful morals which are inbuilt through their dialogues and innocent reactions, expressions. This is what we all benefited through Ramayana, Mahabharata being played out in different forms in villages, etc. But the Western academia has actually made us look down upon these things as empty rituals, as pedantic superstitions and things like that, and we started looking at ourselves with that worldview. That's a problem that the generation now has to live with, and probably people of our generation also, we are not able to reconnect our children to the past, because that gap has come in now. And this book is an attempt to bridge that gap.
Yeah. Actually, it's been about 3 or 4 generations that we have actually spoiled the country. 3 or 4 generations, because
everyone did their bit.
Yeah, everybody, of course. And also, fortunately for us, we are getting back. This is one of the things that is pushing it back into our own self-knowledge, basically, and the respect that we need to have for our own selves, our country.
This is nothing against anyone.
Absolutely. In fact, none of the scriptures is against anybody.
In fact, Bhagavad Gita says, whichever form you follow the faith, if you do it sincerely, you'll reach me.
Exactly. And also, don't ridicule somebody going in his way. He would reach there anyway. Which is what Shankara also talked about, saying that everybody has an evolution level. And according to the evolution level, you pray, you do puja, whatever it is.
That's true.
But ultimately, it is a path that leads, and as you keep having janmas, you'll
True.
No, that's absolutely right. Now, the question is, in the current context, we see many of them over here having grey hair.
Some have colored it, I know them.
Well, you can see under that anyway. Now, there was one of those conversations somebody had, and then most of you must have heard Kuldeep Pai, the music teacher. Many of the children who have come up are excellent. The diction is excellent, the pronunciation is excellent. They understand what they are singing, including the music part of it as well as the diction part of it, the literature part of it. Now he takes that effort to actually tell the children what it means, right? Now, we were watching something, myself and my wife, we were watching something, and underneath there's a comment. There's an older couple which says, how do we, my granddaughter came in, and then I was listening to this, I was trying to tell that girl something. They said, what is all this trash slokas? Trash slokas. Bhagavad Gita. Okay?
Now, how do you address this? Please.
Here I would like to fall back on your philosophical thing. See, this is prarabdha karma at play for all of us.
Well, that's an easy answer.
No, obviously I'll have to take the easy way out so that my karma is confined.
You are a lawyer.
My karma is confined, otherwise I'll offend people and acquire more karma.
No, but basically, I think in this rebuilding of this nation, bringing back the culture, it is very essential that we all need to contribute to actually do this one in a strong way. Not be bystanders and watchers. Ramayana also talks about the people who just bystanders when something adharma is happening, not doing anything about it. They also carry that sin of doing adharma. This is what Ramayana says. I am sure that you quoted from one of those.
Therefore, what I believe is that it's our dharma to tell them that this is wrong, and that's where it ends. What they do, what they do not do, after they reach a particular age of their volition and discretion, irrespective of whatever the age the law prescribes as being an adult. As a parent, as a grandparent, your duty to tell what is right continues as long as you are alive.
This is the exact answer I gave her, my wife. When she asked
Because, it's ignorance. For us, Vidya, Avidya concepts are very clear. Vidya is knowledge, Avidya is ignorance. Most of us are living in ignorance. Ignorance is why people actually insult and talk demeaningly or taunt because they know nothing.
Yes.
See, I can understand you can have an intellectual exchange with someone who's read, and then you are actually debating on some principle or some kind of a value system, or you're talking about some kind of a logical explanation. Sans any of this, if you're just coughing it and laughing it off, so it's avidya.
Right.
So there's no debate there.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. It's exactly.
We are a country which conquers people through our debates. Vada prativada is how we have evolved.
That is how we
and our
evolved.
wisdom is not stagnated. We evolve and we actually progress with times.
Excellent. Are we done, Chandrasekhar ji? Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Sridharji and Giridharanji, for the wonderful one-on-one session. That was real enrichment for all of us. Thank you once again. Now, may I request Shri B.S. Sharma ji and Shri Usha ji to please come on to the dais. To give away the token of gift for our guests. Thank you so much. Now, we have about 10 minutes time for question answer session. Any questions from the audience will be answered. Like I said already before, please pose your questions straight away, avoiding any briefing or introduction.
Sridharji, I have one question. What was the reason and what was your mind when you wrote this? Well, as I said, there is a 5 minute experience as a user. Can I have the mic, sir? Mic. Thank you.
Sorry.
See, as I said, I've experienced a vacuum. I mean, I looked for the easy way out of buying a book which solves my problems. So when I didn't get the book, I thought as well I'll write it. That's the exact thought that I had, and I realized that if somebody has to do it, I had the privilege of reading Ramayana and Mahabharata, and that happened over a period of 7 to 8 years. And as I've inherited my father's habit of marking in my books, so my Ramayana and Mahabharata have extensive markings. So those markings were ready references that I realized that I can just convert them into a book at any in a short notice. So I was waiting, somebody else will do it for long, and then COVID gave me that kind of bandwidth of time, which I thought, let me just use it and keep myself occupied. Otherwise, devil's mind is that kind of a situation when you don't know what's happening around you, and that's the situation where I had the support of a couple of my young colleagues, who were both postgraduates in law, more qualified than me, who had worked with me, who were stranded in Delhi away from families. So we decided we'll spend a couple of hours every day in the evenings, 3 to 5, 5:30, and then start compiling. And then that job was done in about 2.5 months. And my brother, Ramana Kumar, suggested that you need to have the Sanskrit sloka, without which there's no credibility to your work. So when we did that Sanskrit sloka, it took a long time. Sanita Jani of Healing Wahab helped me with the Sanskrit slokas. Then we used Google tools to transliterate those things for people who are not familiar with Devanagari, and I gave my translations. Then I shared this draft with Parasaran sir. He suggested that we should give the name of the person through whom this sloka is coming out, because it's very important that when you quote someone, you need to know what is the context and which is the character that you're quoting. Because devil can recite verses, and there are so many of them. In fact, I can do a book on devil reciting verses from any of these epics. Because most of the time, they actually give you an argument in support of devil. The devils actually recite these verses, like Shakuni justifies himself, going for the game of dice second time around. So that is very much there. So, therefore that character I had to give. And then Mr. Dalip Singh, a senior journalist, said that why don't you give a primer, without which it looks a little incomplete. We don't know exactly what is the context in which this has come about. So that took about a year to write. So it took me about 2 years to complete this project in that process, to make it actually relevant and useful as well.
Sir, namaste andi.
Yeah, please tell me. I've seen you.
సార్ యాక్చువల్గా మహాభారతలో ద్రౌపది వస్త్రాపహరణ ఏదైతే సన్నివేశం ఉందో అది అందరూ దాన్ని మన ప్రముఖంగా ద్రౌపది నవ్వడం వల్ల జరిగింది అనేది ఒకటి అందరు చెప్పే విషయము. కానీ వ్యాస మహాభారతంలో అక్కడ ఆ సమయంలో ద్రౌపది లేదని, కేవలం భీముని యొక్క స్నేహితులు మాత్రం ఉన్నారని వ్యాస మహాభారతంలో ఉంది. ఇక్కడ దీన్ని ఎందుకు ఎవరు కూడా ఖండించకుండా, ద్రౌపది ఆ రోజు నవ్వింది కాబట్టి ఇటువంటి అవమానం చేశాడు ఇతను అనే భాషణ ఒక క్రియేట్ చేసి తీసుకొస్తున్నారు. దీని విషయంలో మీ అభిప్రాయం ఏంటి? మీకు ఏమనిపించింది? మహాభారత చాలా మీరు ఎక్కువ చేశారు కదా, చూసారు కదా.
సంథింగ్ కాల్డ్ ప్రపోర్షనాలిటీ ఇన్ లా అండి, పనిష్మెంట్ లో, అడ్మినిస్ట్రేటివ్ లా అయినా ఆర్ క్రిమినల్ లాలో అయినా. నవ్విందే అనుకోండి, she doesn't deserve to be disrobed. Assuming that she had laughed. So whether she's laughed or not, there's no witness today. As a lawyer, I can't really say whether she's laughed or not. So I'll take both situations. If she's not laughed or if she has laughed, this act cannot be justified.
వ్యాస మహాభారత మూలం కదా, మూలంలోనే లేని విషయాన్ని తీసుకొచ్చి ఇంత పెద్ద క్రియేట్ చేసి దీనికి కారణం అని చెప్పినప్పుడు దీని ఖండిస్తారు.
అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఐఎమ్ నాట్ క్వాలిఫైడ్ టు గో ఇన్ టు దట్ స్పేస్ అండి టు బిగిన్ విత్, అండ్ ఇట్స్ ద లిటరరీ ఫ్రీడమ్ ఆఫ్ ది కంపోజర్స్. ఇప్పుడు నేను పోతన భారతం చదవలేదు, ఇఫ్ ఇన్ కేస్ అందులో ఉందనుకోండి, వ్యాస మహాభారతం మీరు చెప్తున్నారు, దేర్ కుడ్ బి అదర్ వర్షన్స్ వీఆర్ నాట్ ఫెమిలియర్ విత్. సో రామాయణానికే ఓ 30 odd వర్షన్స్ ఉన్నాయంటారు. So therefore it is very difficult for us today in this present time to get into that kind of a engagement where I don't really have the ability to answer, because I have not read all the versions. Then I would have a basis to disagree or agree. Yeah, Veerabhadra. Oh, he was my junior in Delhi University. Hi.
So you said you were not sure about the Latin in what context they're written. Maybe you can take some liberty to.
I mean, I didn't want to get into that space because it's, again, now, out of the context of the present books discussion. Yeah.
So if you look at the IPC, right, so it was done in 1860s. Most of it is still followed by Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, Burma, all the rest of the Commonwealth countries. So what is that, that is so different in Maxims from Mahabharata that contributing to the current day war practice? Because the context is constant and in 4th century codified the so-called, both the law. The law that we practice in India, our Commonwealth countries, directly comes from the 10 Commandments that Moses wrote.
See, Macaulay has codified the Indian Penal Code. Now, there is a proposal to actually relook the entire IPC, CRPC, and the government of India is having a look at it as well. So that's one part of it. And there are research which have commenced to actually test their validity on principles of Indian logic that I'm privy to, but it's still work in progress. So probably once we reach a particular stage, that can be discussed, because that research needs to be complete and then there should be some conclusions on those principles. As far as now, they are only defining crimes. So therefore, a definition of crime is what is defined under law in the Indian Penal Code.
Procedure also mostly follows the same mechanism, right? At least my exposure to the American, except the jury system, rest is all the same. I don't find much difference.
I'm not privy with American system, so I can't respond. Probably. Probably. I think there's a question here, Dheeraj. Yes, here, please say.
As is mentioned that there are 1 lakh shlokas in Mahabharata. You have chosen more than 100, you said. I've still not got a look at your book. What is the basis you use to choose 100 plus, maybe out of 1 lakh?
Well, honestly, whatever was easy to translate. Not really. As I said, I used Dhritarashtra for Yato Dharma Sato Jaya, not Gandhari. So that kind of small things. And then I actually had an idea of arranging in the different topically that you would have seen the poster, the index. So I've collected them and then I've focused on the Vana Parva, Udyoga Parva, Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva. For me, if anyone is going through a mental depression, Vana Parva is the place to go to. And or as people always say, Sundarakanda Patanam is very good, and I've participated in some in Delhi also, friends having them. What I noticed that we made it into an empty ritual. Pandit ji aayenge, he'll do the Sundarakanda part, Dakshina diya, acha ho gaya. It's like asking your neighbor to jog for you and expect to lose weight. It doesn't work. You have to read it to absorb the journey of those people who have gone through those experiences. Then you will relate to it and then you will find your own answers. Otherwise, it's like somebody else eating for you or somebody else running for you. Justice is one aspect of dharma. Dharma is much wider because it has multiple meanings in different contexts. For me, the dharma as of now as a speaker here is to confine to the context of the meeting today. Similarly, as a son, as a husband, as a brother, there will be conflicting dharmas in our civil life as well. So that harmonizing of those dharmas, and then it's a clear case of rules of interpretation applying, which is the higher dharma. That shall be given priority and the others will have to give way. As I said, individual to the family, etc. That's the clear hierarchy. As against the Western world, which puts the individual on the top. So everybody else is subject to the individual's whims and caprice. Individual freedom.
In Telugu Mahabharata, there is a sloka, poem, Sarapu Dharmamun Vimala Satyamu Paramu Cheta Bonkuchen, Cheda Parvinada Nevasta. So in your day-to-day life, how do you keep that scale balanced between like holding the Satya and Dharma?
See, as I see, most often than not, it's our vanity which drives us. If truth and dharma are stable, we are attached to vanity. So therefore, our vanity makes us choose something which is contrary to dharma or stay away from truth. Because we want some approval, validation or gratification of some sensory desires or a recognition in society. That is also part of your vanity. So therefore, if you look at your vanity, maybe you'll get your answers. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. You have a question?
Yeah,
sir?
well.
Yeah, the last question.
How much do you think the Rama Janmabhoomi participation in that court case stimulated you to write this book? Do you think you would have written this book had you not participated in that trial?
Very interesting question. Maybe the trigger or the final straw was Ram Janmabhoomi. Because there I actually experienced and saw raw truth and which changed me for good. When you come across material as a part of your court evidence, where a person is given a chief affidavit, is put to extensive cross-examinations, and the lies that came out shook me off. I mean, because I'm a commerce graduate and was general practitioner. I was not having anything to do with history or religion or spirituality. So, except my personal readings. When I saw that as an organized, I mean, if I may use the phrase, mafia-like attempt to actually destroy our cultural roots and alienate the general public from their roots, that shook me off. And that's probably the trigger. And that's when I started writing about the Marxist spin to the Indian history unearthed in Ram Janmabhoomi case, because there is evidence that I've quoted which the High Court and the Supreme Court have actually relied upon and then really came down heavily about these Marxist professors. Most of them admitted they are red card holders and they come out to be historians. They were lying through their teeth and they were caught lying in the cross-examination.
Thank you so much, sir. That's all the time we had for question and answer session this evening. Now, I request Sri Ushaji from Duraga Foundation to propose vote of thanks for this evening's program.
I'm sure all of you agree that it has been a very memorable evening, particularly so for us as one of our trustees had said, it's a double pleasure for us because one, it has been an evening of great substance, and also Sridhar happens to be a close friend of our family and also of the foundation, so we're extremely proud to share the dais with him. I would like to thank Pragna Bharati Foundation for giving us this opportunity to partner with them and to host this evening. And Hanuman Chaudhary Garu, Peddalu, he always adds spice and substance to whatever occasion he graces. So it is a great honor and a privilege to be in his presence and in his company. We are very, very grateful to him. Sirishji, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Giridharanji, it has been a very, very interesting exchange. Thanks to you. I mean, you have really extracted the right answers from Sridhar. And thank you, Sridhar, and we hope your next book is on the way. And we will also plan to have a lot more such interactions with you in future. I am sure everyone here agrees. Thank you everyone for being here. Please be with us the next time we are doing this again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ushaji. Now, we shall all rise for Janaganamana. Let's all sing together. Please collect your copy and get your book autographed.